My daughter asked me for $30,000 for her wedding. I sold my car and gave her everything, but she didn't even invite me. 3 months later, I found out there was no wedding. My money was spent on. Good day, dear listeners. It's Larissa again. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I had spent 37 years working as a school librarian in suburban Ohio. My life wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. A small ranch house with a garden I tended every Sunday, a 15-year-old Honda Civic that had seen better days, and enough savings to feel secure in my retirement. My daughter, Jennifer, was 32 and living in Denver. We spoke every Sunday evening, like clockwork, or at least we used to. The first time something felt off was in late March. Jennifer called me on a Tuesday, unusual, but not alarming. Her voice trembled with excitement. "Mom, I have incredible news," she said. "David proposed. We're getting married." David. I'd met him twice. Once at Thanksgiving 2 years ago, and again last summer when I flew out to visit. He worked in tech, talked mostly about cryptocurrency, and had a habit of checking his phone during conversations. But Jennifer seemed happy, and that was what mattered. "Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful," I said, genuinely thrilled. "When's the wedding?" "We're thinking June. Small ceremony, just close family and friends." She paused. "Mom, there's something I need to ask you." My stomach tightened. I couldn't explain why. "We want to have the wedding at this beautiful venue in Aspen. It's absolutely perfect, overlooking the mountains, everything we've dreamed of. But it's expensive. Really expensive." "How expensive?" $30,000. The number hung in the air like smoke. $30,000. That was more than half of what I had saved over 4 decades of work. "Mom, I know it's a lot, but this is my one wedding. My one chance to have the day I've always imagined. David's parents are contributing, but they're helping with the honeymoon too, and we're just short on the venue deposit. Please, Mom, you're the only one I can ask." What was I supposed to say? She was my only child, my daughter. The girl I'd raised alone after her father left when she was 3. I'd worked double shifts at the library, skipped vacations, drove that same old car for 15 years, all to give her a better life. "Let me think about it," I said. "There's a deadline, Mom. We need to secure the venue by next week, or we lose it." That night I barely slept. I ran the numbers over and over. If I sold my car, took it from my savings, I could do it. I'd have to take the bus for a while, maybe ask my neighbor Carol for rides to the grocery store. But it was doable. I called Jennifer the next morning. "I'll do it," I said. "I'll sell my car and give you the money." She screamed with joy. "Mom, thank you. Thank you so much. You're the best mother in the world. I love you." 2 weeks later, I handed her a check for $30,000. My Honda was gone, sold to a young couple for $4,500. The rest came from my savings account, which now looked frighteningly thin. "You'll send me the invitation soon, right?" I asked. "Of course, Mom. The second they're printed." But April passed. Then May. Every time I called, Jennifer had an excuse. "The printer messed up the design. We're still finalizing the guest list. David's family is handling the invitations. You know how his mother is." By early June, my chest felt tight every time I thought about it. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones, the same way I'd felt it when Jennifer's father packed his bags. 29 years ago, without saying goodbye. Finally, on June 15th, I called her. "Jennifer, the wedding is supposed to be this month. When exactly is it?" Silence. "We postponed it," she said quickly. "Family emergency on David's side. His grandmother is sick. We're pushing it to September." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I've been so stressed, Mom. I'm sorry. I'll keep you updated. But September came and went. October, November. Every call was the same. Vague reassurances, promises that never materialized, and that growing pit in my stomach that told me I'd been played. Then, 3 months after I'd given her the money, I ran into Jennifer's college roommate, Michelle, at the grocery store. "I heard about the wedding," Michelle said cheerfully. "Such a bummer it fell through." My blood turned to ice. "Fell through?" "Yeah, Jennifer told me they decided not to get married after all. She said they're just going to live together for now. Honestly, I think it's smart. Weddings are so expensive, right?" I stood there, frozen, clutching a box of cereal. There had been no wedding. There had never been a wedding. I don't remember driving home from the grocery store even though Carol had given me a ride. I don't remember putting away the food or walking into my living room. All I remember is sitting on my couch, staring at my empty driveway where my Honda used to be parked, and feeling something crack open inside my chest. $30,000. Gone. I pulled out my bank statements and spread them across my coffee table. The numbers didn't lie. My retirement account had been gutted. What was supposed to last me another 20 years, through medical emergencies, home repairs, the simple dignity of aging, had been reduced to barely enough for 2 years of basic living. And for what? A wedding that never existed. I thought about calling Jennifer immediately, demanding answers, screaming at her until my voice gave out. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the librarian in me, the part that had spent decades teaching children to research, to gather facts before jumping to conclusions. Or maybe it was pure survival instinct. If I confronted her now, without proof, she'd have an excuse ready. She'd spin some story, make me feel guilty for doubting her, and I'd end up apologizing. I'd seen her do it before, to boyfriends, to friends, to her own father on the rare occasions he tried to be involved in her life. Number one, I needed to be smart about this. I opened my laptop and started searching. Jennifer Morrison Denver didn't bring up wedding announcements or engagement photos. I checked Facebook. Her profile was set to private, but I could see her recent posts through mutual friends' comments. Pictures of her and David at restaurants, a weekend trip to Santa Fe, a new couch for their apartment. Not a single mention of a wedding. Not one photo of wedding planning. My hands shook as I scrolled. Then I found something. A post from David, dated July 10th, 2 weeks after I'd given Jennifer the money. A photo of him holding keys in front of a sleek silver BMW. Finally upgraded the ride. Hashtag new car. Hashtag BMW life. Hashtag dreams come true. I stared at that photo for 10 full minutes. A BMW. $30,000 could easily cover a down payment on a BMW. The anger that rushed through me was unlike anything I'd felt in my entire life. It wasn't hot and explosive. It was cold, surgical, clarifying. They hadn't just lied to me. They'd stolen from me. They'd exploited my love for my daughter to fund their lifestyle while I rode the bus to my doctor's appointments. I picked up my phone and called my neighbor, Carol. She'd been a paralegal for 30 years before retiring. "Carol, I need advice. Legal advice." We met at her house that evening. I told her everything: the wedding story, the money, Michelle's revelation, the BMW. Carol listened without interrupting, her expression growing grimmer with each detail. "Do you have anything in writing?" she asked. "Just text messages about the wedding, and the check I wrote. It says wedding venue in the memo line." Carol nodded slowly. "That might be enough for fraud. You gave her money for a specific purpose under false pretenses. But proving it will be tricky, especially since she's your daughter. Courts don't like family disputes. What should I do?" "Document everything. Save every text message, every email, every conversation. If you can, get her to admit in writing that there was no wedding. Then we can talk about legal options, small claims court, maybe even criminal fraud charges if the prosecutor is willing. I felt a surge of hope, followed immediately by crushing doubt. Carol, she's my daughter. Can I really do this to her? Carol reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Sweetie, she already did this to you. The question is, are you going to let her get away with it? That night, I created a folder on my computer labeled Garden Plans. Innocuous enough that Jennifer wouldn't think twice if she somehow saw it. Inside, I started documenting everything. Screenshots of David's BMW post, bank statements showing the withdrawn money, text messages where Jennifer promised to send invitations. I also started a journal recording every conversation, every excuse, every lie. My plan was simple. I would gather evidence. I would build an ironclad case. And then I would confront her, not with emotion, but with facts. If she refused to return the money, I would take legal action. But first, I needed proof that she'd never intended to have a wedding at all. I picked up my phone and texted Jennifer. Hi, sweetheart. Just thinking about you. How's the wedding planning going? Can't wait to see you walk down that aisle. I watched the 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Finally. Still working on it, Mom. Love you. I set down my phone and smiled grimly. Let the game begin. I waited 3 days before making my first official move. 3 days of pretending everything was normal, of sending cheerful text messages to Jennifer about the weather and my garden, of keeping my voice steady when she called. But behind the scenes, I was preparing. On Thursday morning, I took the bus to the Denver County Clerk's office website and searched for marriage licenses. Public records. Anyone could access them. I typed in Jennifer's name and David's name, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. No results found. I tried variations, Jennifer Morrison and David Chen, Jennifer Chen, different spellings, different dates, nothing. They hadn't even applied for a marriage license. I printed the search results, or rather the lack thereof, and added them to my folder. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I created a fake email account under a common name, Sarah Williams, and sent a message to the Aspen venue Jennifer had supposedly booked. Hi, my daughter told me she booked your venue for a wedding in June under the name Jennifer Morrison. I'm trying to confirm some details for a family gift. Could you please verify the booking date? The response came within 2 hours. Dear Ms. Williams, we have no booking under that name for this year. Perhaps you're thinking of a different venue. I stared at that email until my vision blurred. No booking, no venue, no wedding, just lies. Piled on top of lies, built on a foundation of my money. That evening, Jennifer called me. Just a regular check-in, she said. But I could hear something different in her voice, a tightness, a wariness. How are you doing, Mom? You sound tired. Just the usual, I said lightly. Actually, I was thinking about coming to visit you next month. Maybe we could finally go shopping for your wedding dress. A pause. Too long. Oh, that's sweet, Mom. But we're actually really busy with work right now. Maybe after the holidays? Sure, sweetheart. Hey, whatever happened with that venue in Aspen? Did they ever fix the issues with the deposit? I heard her breath catch. What deposit? You know, the $30,000 deposit I gave you for the venue. Silence. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. That money was for the whole wedding. Flowers, food, everything. My grip tightened on my phone. She was changing the story. Right there, in real time. Really? Because you specifically told me it was for the venue deposit. You said David's parents were covering the honeymoon. I think you're confused, Mom. Are you feeling okay? Maybe you should get your memory checked. And there it was. Gaslighting, making me doubt my own recollection. But I had the text messages. I had the proof. You're probably right, I said sweetly. I'm getting old. My memory isn't what it used to be. I could practically hear her relax. It's okay, Mom. We all forget things. Listen, I have to go. David and I have dinner reservations. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. She knew. Somehow, she knew I was suspicious. Maybe I'd been too obvious with my questions. Maybe David had noticed something. The next morning, I received a text from Jennifer. Mom, I've been thinking. You gave us such a generous gift for the wedding, but I feel terrible that you had to sell your car. David and I want to buy you a new one. Well, not new, but newer than your old Honda. We found a 2015 Toyota for $8,000. We can help you with half. Would that work? I read that message 3 times. $8,000. Half of which they'd help with, meaning $4,000 back from the $30,000 I'd given them. A pittance. And framed as if they were doing me a favor. This was a bribe, an attempt to placate me before I asked too many questions. I texted back, "That's so thoughtful. Let me think about it." But I had no intention of accepting. Instead, I called Carol. I have the proof, I told her. No marriage license, no venue booking, and she's trying to buy me off with a used car. Carol whistled low. That's consciousness of guilt right there. She knows you're onto her. What do I do now? You confront her, but not over the phone, face to face, and you record it. Colorado is a one-party consent state. Get her to admit there was no wedding. Once you have that, you can decide whether to pursue legal action or just demand the money back. She won't admit it. She might if she thinks you already know everything. People crack under pressure, especially when they're caught. That night, I booked a bus ticket to Denver. The trip would take 22 hours, but I didn't care. I packed my recorder, my printed evidence, and a steel resolve I hadn't known I possessed. Before I left, I sent Jennifer one more text. Sweetheart, I've been thinking about that car offer. Can we talk about it in person? I'd love to see you. I'll be in Denver this weekend. Her response was almost immediate. This weekend isn't good, Mom. Can we do next month? I already booked my ticket, I lied. I'll be there Saturday morning. Can't wait to see you. 3 dots, then nothing. 10 minutes later, okay. Saturday works. I smiled. She was scared. Good. I arrived in Denver on Saturday morning at 6:47 a.m., exhausted but focused. The bus station smelled like stale coffee and diesel fuel. I took a ride share to Jennifer's apartment, a sleek building in the Lodo district with a doorman and floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place that cost at least $3,000 a month. My $30,000 had helped pay for this. I texted Jennifer from the lobby. I'm here. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, she appeared in the elevator, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked tired, guilty. Mom, you're early. She hugged me, but it felt performative. Hollow. The bus made good time, I said cheerfully. Can I come up? Actually, the apartment's a mess. Let's grab coffee instead. I'd love to see where you live, sweetheart. Her jaw tightened. Mom, seriously, it's embarrassing. Let's just go to the cafe down the street. I smiled pleasantly. I rode a bus for 22 hours. I'd really like to use your bathroom. She had no choice. The apartment was immaculate, not a dish out of place. A white leather couch, definitely not cheap, faced a massive TV mounted on the wall. Through the window, I could see the BMW parked in the garage below. David emerged from the bedroom, wearing designer sweatpants and a Rolex I knew cost at least $5,000. Mrs. Morrison, what a surprise! His smile didn't reach his eyes. Surprise visit, I said. I wanted to talk to Jennifer about the car you mentioned. Right, the car. Yeah, we've been looking into that. I sat down on their expensive couch and pulled out my phone, pretending to scroll through photos. Before we talk about the car, I'm curious. How's the wedding planning going? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Jennifer glanced at David. David glanced at his phone. It's going, Jennifer said. Slowly. You know how these things are. I don't, actually. I've never planned a wedding. I looked up at her. Which venue did you end up choosing? Was it the one in Aspen? We're still deciding. That's strange. I could have sworn you said you needed the deposit by last week or you'd lose the venue. Plans changed, Mom. I reached into my bag and pulled out the printed email from the Aspen venue. I set it on the coffee table between us. That's interesting, because the Aspen venue says they never had a booking under your name. Silence. David's face hardened. Jennifer went pale. Mom, what are you doing? I'm asking a simple question. Where did my $30,000 go? Jennifer stood up, her voice rising. How dare you? You gave us that money as a gift for our wedding. A wedding that doesn't exist. I pulled out the marriage license search results. No license, no venue, no wedding. David stepped forward, his voice low and threatening. Mrs. Morrison, I think you should leave. Not until I get answers. You want answers? Jennifer's voice cracked. Fine. We used the money for things we needed. Our security deposit on this apartment, David's car payment, my student loans, things that actually matter instead of some overpriced party. So you lied to me. We were going to have a wedding eventually. We needed the money more for other things. I stood up, my voice steady and cold. You stole from me. You exploited my love for you to fund your lifestyle. And you didn't even have the decency to tell me the truth. David moved closer, his face inches from mine. Listen carefully, he said. If you try to make trouble for us, if you go to the police, if you tell anyone about this, we will destroy you. Jennifer is your only daughter, your only family. You'll never see her again. Never meet your grandchildren. You'll die alone in that pathetic little house with no one who gives a damn about you. My heart hammered in my chest, but I didn't flinch. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you how it is. You gave us a gift. Gifts don't come with conditions. If you try to take it back, we'll make sure everyone knows what a vindictive, bitter old woman you are. Jennifer grabbed David's arm. David, stop. But he didn't stop. We know you're on a fixed income, Mrs. Morrison. We know you can't afford a lawyer. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to go back to Ohio. You're going to accept our offer for the car, and you're going to keep your mouth shut. Because if you don't, we will make your life a living hell. I looked at my daughter. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Is that what you want, Jennifer? For me to just disappear? She said nothing. I picked up my bag and walked to the door. But before I left, I turned back. I have recordings of this conversation. I have proof of your fraud, and I'm not going anywhere. David laughed. Colorado is a one-party consent state. You can't record us without permission. I smiled. Actually, David, you're wrong. Colorado allows recording if one party, meaning me, consents. You might want to check your facts before you make threats. The look on his face was worth the 22-hour bus ride. I left the apartment and took a rideshare straight to the bus station. I didn't stay in Denver. I didn't look back. On the bus home, I shook for 3 hours straight. Then I slept. Then I cried. When I got back to Ohio 2 days later, I unplugged my phone, closed my curtains, and slept for 16 hours. I needed time to recover, to process, to figure out my next move, because this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I spent the next week in a fog. I watered my garden mechanically, made simple meals I barely tasted, and avoided looking at my bank statements. Carol checked on me twice, bringing casseroles and worried glances. "You need to decide what you're doing," she said on Thursday. "Either you pursue this legally or you walk away. But you can't stay in this limbo." I knew she was right, but I wasn't ready yet. Then, on Friday evening, my doorbell rang. A delivery man stood on my porch, holding an enormous bouquet of white roses and lilies, at least $200 worth. The card read, "Mom, we're so sorry for how things went last weekend. We love you. Let's start over. Jennifer and David." I set the flowers on my kitchen counter and stared at them. An hour later, my phone rang. Jennifer. "Mom, did you get the flowers?" "I did." "I'm so sorry about David. He was completely out of line. I told him he needs to apologize to you directly." Her voice was soft, contrite, the daughter I used to know. "Jennifer, please, Mom, let me finish. I know we hurt you. I know we shouldn't have used the money the way we did. But we're family. We can work through this. David and I talked, and we want to make it right. We're going to pay you back. Every penny. We just need some time." I closed my eyes. This was the temptation Carol had warned me about. The promise of reconciliation, of getting my daughter back. "How much time?" "6 months. Maybe a year. David's getting a promotion at work and we'll have the money then." "A year." "Mom, please, don't throw away our relationship over money. I'm your daughter. I made a mistake, but I love you. We can fix this." I thought about what David had said. "You'll die alone in that pathetic little house." Maybe he was right. Maybe fighting this would cost me the only family I had left. But then I remembered the BMW, the expensive apartment, the Rolex. They didn't need a year. They had money now. They just didn't want to give it back. "Jennifer," I said quietly, "did you ever intend to have a wedding?" Silence. "Answer me honestly, just once. Did you ever actually plan a wedding, or was it a lie from the beginning?" More silence. Then, almost a whisper, "I don't know." "You don't know." We talked about it. We wanted to get married eventually, but then we needed the money for other things, and we thought, you thought you could lie to me and I'd never find out. "Mom, I need time to think," I said. "Don't call me. Don't send flowers. I'll contact you when I'm ready." I hung up before she could respond. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Jennifer's words. I don't know. Not a yes, not a no. Just ambiguity. Just enough to keep me hoping, doubting, second-guessing myself. The next morning, I went to church. I hadn't been in months. My faith had wavered after my husband left, and I'd never quite found my way back. But I needed something. Guidance, clarity, community. After the service, I ran into Margaret Hayes, a woman I'd known casually for years. She'd lost her husband to cancer and raised 3 kids on her own. If anyone would understand, it was her. We had coffee in the church basement. I told her everything. Margaret listened without judgment, her weathered hands wrapped around her mug. "My son stole from me once," she said when I finished. "Not as much as your daughter, but enough. He was on drugs. Told me he needed money for rehab. Turned out he spent it on heroin." "What did you do?" "I pressed charges. He spent 6 months in jail. Hasn't spoken to me in 15 years. My stomach dropped. "Do you regret it?" She thought for a long moment. "Some days, yes. Most days, no. Because enabling him would have killed him. He's sober now, married with kids. He may hate me, but he's alive. Sometimes love means doing the hard thing." I wiped my eyes. "I don't want to lose her." "You already have, sweetheart. The question is whether you're going to lose yourself too." Over the next few days, other people from church reached out. Margaret had quietly spread the word, not gossip, but a call for support. Meals appeared on my doorstep. Cards of encouragement filled my mailbox. Carol organized a small group of women who'd dealt with family betrayals, and we met at her house. Their stories gave me strength. A daughter who'd forged her mother's signature to take out loans. A son who'd stolen his mother's jewelry. A nephew who'd embezzled from the family business. All of them had fought back. Some had won. Some had lost. But none of them regretted standing up for themselves. By the end of the week, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Calm. Cold, clear calm. Jennifer and David were watching, waiting for me to break. Waiting for guilt and loneliness to bring me back to them on their terms. But I wasn't breaking, I was preparing. They showed up without warning on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my garden, pruning roses, when I heard the car pull into my driveway. A rental car. I stood slowly, my gardening shears still in my hand, and watched as Jennifer and David climbed out. Jennifer wore a sundress and sandals, looking younger than her 32 years. David wore slacks and a button-down shirt, his expression carefully neutral. "Mom," Jennifer called out, her voice bright. "Surprise!" I set down my shears and pulled off my gloves. "What are you doing here?" "We wanted to see you, to talk in person." She walked toward me, arms outstretched for a hug. I stepped back. Her arms dropped. "Mom, please. We drove all the way from Denver. Can we at least come inside?" Every instinct told me to say no. But I also knew that if I turned them away, they'd spin it as evidence of my unreasonableness. Fine, but this better be quick. Inside, they sat on my old floral couch, the one I'd had for 20 years because I couldn't afford to replace it. David looked around my small living room with barely concealed disdain. "So," I said, remaining standing, "why are you here?" Jennifer leaned forward, her eyes wide and earnest. "Mom, we've been doing a lot of soul searching. David and I talked to a therapist about what happened, and we realized we handled things terribly. We hurt you, and we're genuinely sorry." "A therapist," I repeated. "Yes. And she helped us understand that this whole situation came from a place of financial stress and poor communication. We should have been honest with you from the beginning." David nodded solemnly. "Mrs. Morrison, I apologize for how I spoke to you in Denver. That was inexcusable. I was defensive and scared, and I lashed out." I folded my arms. "Okay, apology noted. Now what?" Jennifer pulled out her phone. "We made a payment plan. Look." She showed me a spreadsheet. "We'll pay you back $500 a month for the next 5 years. It's the best we can do with our current budget, but it's something." I looked at the numbers. $500 a month for 60 months came to $30,000. But no interest, no compensation for inflation, no acknowledgement that they'd had the money all along. "Jennifer, you bought a BMW. You live in a luxury apartment. You're wearing a watch that costs more than my monthly grocery budget. You have the money." David's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice calm. "That's not how finances work, Mrs. Morrison. We have expenses, obligations. We can't just liquidate everything." "But you expect me to accept $500 a month while I struggle to pay for groceries." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "Mom, we're trying. We're really trying. But if you push us too hard, if you try to take legal action or demand everything back at once, we'll have to declare bankruptcy. You'll get nothing. Is that what you want?" There it was, the threat wrapped in a plea. I sat down across from them. "Let me make sure I understand. You lied to me. You stole my life savings. You threatened me. And now you're here asking me to accept a payment plan that benefits you while I suffer." "We're not asking you to suffer," Jennifer started. Yes, you are. I leaned forward. You're asking me to ride the bus in the rain, to skip medications because I can't afford them, to worry every day about whether I'll have enough money to stay in my home, while you drive your BMW and wear your Rolex and live in your expensive apartment. David stood up abruptly. You know what? This was a mistake. We came here in good faith, trying to make amends, and you're being completely unreasonable. Unreasonable? Yes! You gave us that money willingly. You can't just change your mind because you regret it now. I gave it to you for a wedding that never existed. It was a gift. His voice rose. Gifts don't have strings attached. Jennifer stood too, grabbing his arm. David, stop. But he shook her off, his mask finally slipping. Your mother is a bitter, lonely old woman who's trying to control us with money. She probably never even intended to give us the full 30,000. She's just mad because we're successful, and she's not. I stood up slowly, my voice ice. Get out of my house. Mom, Jennifer reached for me. Get out, now! David grabbed Jennifer's hand and pulled her toward the door. This is your last chance, he said, turning back. Either you accept our payment plan, or we walk away, and you never see us again. Your choice. I'll take my chances. They left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle my windows. I sank onto the couch, my whole body trembling. Part of me wanted to run after them, to apologize, to accept whatever scraps they were willing to give me. But a stronger part, the part that had survived a divorce, raised a child alone, and worked for 37 years without complaint, refused to bend. I pulled out my phone and called Carol. They came to my house, I said. They tried to manipulate me into accepting pennies on the dollar. What did you tell them? I told them to leave. Carol was quiet for a moment, then, good, now we move forward. No more waiting, no more negotiations. We file suit. Carol, I'm scared. I know, but you're also strong, stronger than they think. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house made me jump. I kept imagining David coming back, forcing his way inside, making good on his threats. But morning came. The sun rose, and I was still here, still standing. The fear was still there, coiled in my chest like a snake. But underneath it, something else was growing. Determination. Pure, unshakable determination. The lawsuit took 3 months to prepare. Carol connected me with a lawyer named Patricia Vance, a woman in her 50s who specialized in family fraud cases. She reviewed my evidence, the text messages, the emails, the recordings from Denver, the fake venue booking, and nodded grimly. This is solid, she said. Fraud by false pretenses. We can make a criminal case if the prosecutor's interested, but civil court is your best bet for getting the money back. We filed in early September. Jennifer and David were served with papers at their apartment on a Tuesday morning. Jennifer called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. Finally, she sent a text. How could you do this to your own daughter? You're destroying our lives. I deleted it. The court date was set for November 19th. The night before, I couldn't eat. I laid out my clothes. A simple navy dress, sensible shoes, my mother's pearl necklace. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Thinner, grayer, but also stronger. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Jennifer and David sat on one side with their lawyer, a slick young man in an expensive suit who'd clearly been paid with my money. I sat with Patricia, my hands folded in my lap. Jennifer wouldn't look at me. David stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Judge Robertson, reviewed the case file. This is a civil suit for fraud and return of funds, she said. Mrs. Morrison claims she gave her daughter $30,000 specifically for wedding expenses and that no wedding took place. Ms. Morrison and Mr. Chen claim the money was a gift with no strings attached. Is that correct? Both lawyers confirmed. Let's hear from the plaintiff first. Patricia called me to the stand. I testified calmly, walking through every detail. The phone call in March, the specific request for venue money, the check memo that said wedding venue, the text asking about invitations, Michelle's revelation, the search records showing no marriage license, no venue booking. Jennifer's lawyer cross-examined me. Mrs. Morrison, isn't it true that you were excited about your daughter's wedding and wanted to contribute? Yes. And isn't it true that you wrote the check willingly, without coercion? Yes, because I believed it was for a wedding. But you have no proof that your daughter explicitly promised to have a wedding in exchange for the money, do you? I have text messages. Text messages that mention a wedding, yes, but nothing that says, if you give me money, I promise to have a wedding, correct? I took a breath. She told me she needed it for the venue deposit. But plans change, don't they, Mrs. Morrison? Young couples change their minds all the time. Patricia objected. The judge sustained it. Then it was Jennifer's turn to testify. She looked small in the witness box, fragile. She testified that yes, they'd planned a wedding, but after receiving the money, they'd realized weddings were wasteful and unnecessary. They'd decided to use the funds more responsibly for their apartment, for David's career advancement, for their future. Did you tell your mother about this change in plans? Patricia asked. Jennifer hesitated. Not right away. I was afraid she'd be upset. So you lied to her, multiple times, about the wedding still being planned. I didn't want to hurt her. Patricia pulled out the printed screenshots of David's BMW post. This car was purchased 2 weeks after your mother gave you the money. How much was the down payment? I don't remember. The records show it was $12,000, nearly half of what your mother gave you. Does that seem like responsible use of wedding funds? Jennifer's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. Then Patricia played the recording from Denver. David's threats, his admission that they'd used the money for other things, his statement that I'd die alone. The courtroom was silent as his voice filled the space. If you try to make trouble for us, we will destroy you. Jennifer's face crumpled. David's turned red. Their lawyer scrambled to object. That recording was obtained under duress, without full disclosure. But Patricia countered that Colorado law only required one-party consent, which I'd provided. Judge Robertson held up her hand. I've heard enough. Mr. Chen, Mrs. Morrison, do you have any evidence that this money was intended as an unconditional gift? Their lawyer stammered. Your Honor, the mother-daughter relationship implies, I'm asking for evidence, documentation, written agreements, anything that shows Mrs. Morrison understood. This was a gift with no conditions. Silence. That's what I thought. Judge Robertson looked at Jennifer and David with something close to disgust. I find in favor of the plaintiff. Ms. Morrison and Mr. Chen are ordered to repay Mrs. Morrison the full amount of $30,000 within 90 days, plus court costs and interest. And Jennifer burst into tears. David's face went blank with shock. I sat perfectly still, not allowing myself to feel anything yet. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal fraud charges. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. I'd won. The 90 days passed slowly. Jennifer and David didn't contact me, not once. Their lawyer sent a letter requesting an extension, citing financial hardship. Patricia shot it down immediately, filing a motion for wage garnishment if they didn't comply. On day 87, a certified check arrived at my attorney's office. $30,000, plus $4,000 in court costs, plus interest, another $1,800, $35,800 total. Patricia called me the moment it cleared. It's done, she said. The money's yours. They paid in full. I sat down at my kitchen table and cried for 20 minutes straight. Then I went to the bank and deposited the check. I watched my account balance climb back to something resembling security, and I felt a weight lift from my chest that I hadn't even realized was suffocating me. The next day, I went car shopping. I bought a 2020 Honda CR-V, newer and more reliable than my old Civic. I paid cash. $13,000. I still had enough left over to replenish my retirement savings and set aside an emergency fund. I drove it home with the windows down, feeling the wind in my hair, and for the first time in months, I smiled. But the victory wasn't just financial. 2 weeks after the payment cleared, I received a call from District Attorney's office. They'd reviewed the case and decided to pursue criminal fraud charges against David. Not Jennifer. She'd cooperated with their investigation, providing evidence of David's pressure and manipulation. Apparently, she'd finally found her spine. David pled guilty to avoid trial. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation, 300 hours of community service, and ordered to attend financial counseling. His employer found out about the conviction. He was fired. Without his income, Jennifer and David couldn't afford their luxury apartment. They moved to a smaller place outside Denver, a 1-bedroom in a building without a doorman. The BMW was repossessed when they fell behind on payments. I know all this because Michelle told me. She'd reached out after hearing about the lawsuit, apologizing for not saying something sooner. Jennifer's devastated, Michelle said. She keeps saying she ruined her life for a car and an apartment. She did, I said simply. Aren't you angry? I thought about it. I was. But now I'm just done. She made her choices. She has to live with them. In December, Jennifer sent me a letter. Not an email, not a text. A handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery. Dear Mom, I know you probably won't read this. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to say it anyway. I was selfish. I was greedy. I let David convince me that you wouldn't miss the money, that you'd be fine, that we deserved it more because we were young and building a life. I was wrong. You gave me everything. You worked yourself to exhaustion to give me opportunities, and I repaid you by lying and stealing. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to respond. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. David and I are separating. I'm moving back to Ohio, not to be near you. I know you don't want that. But because Denver feels tainted now. I'm starting therapy. I'm trying to become someone you could be proud of again, even if you never see it. I love you, Mom. I always have, even when I acted like I didn't. I hope you're happy. You deserve happiness, Jennifer. I read that letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and didn't respond. Maybe one day I would. Maybe one day, years from now. If she proved through actions, not words, that she'd changed, we could have some kind of relationship. But not now. Not yet. The wound was too fresh. The betrayal too deep. Carol came over that evening with champagne. To victory, she said, raising her glass. To survival, I corrected. We drank on my back porch, watching the sun set over my garden. My roses were blooming, deep red, vibrant, resilient. You did it, Carol said. You stood up for yourself. Not everyone has that courage. I didn't feel courageous. I felt terrified the whole time. That's what courage is, being terrified and doing it anyway. I looked at my car parked in the driveway. My car, paid for with my money, earned through my victory. I have my life back, I said. You have more than that. You have your dignity. She was right. I'd lost my daughter, at least for now. But I'd found something more valuable, self-respect. I'd proven that I wouldn't be manipulated, wouldn't be stolen from, wouldn't roll over and accept abuse just to maintain a relationship. I'd proven that I mattered. And that, more than any amount of money, was worth fighting for. The villain hadn't just been defeated. She'd been exposed, reduced, stripped of her power over me. And I was free. 6 months after the trial, my life had transformed in ways I never expected. I started volunteering at the library again, not as an employee, but helping with the children's reading program every Tuesday and Thursday. The head librarian, Karen, welcomed me back with open arms. Being around books, around children's laughter, reminded me why I'd chosen that profession in the first place. The book club that Carol had invited me to became a weekly highlight. 6 women, all over 60, all with stories of survival and reinvention. We read everything from mysteries to memoirs, but mostly we talked about our lives. They'd become my chosen family. In March, I took my first vacation in 8 years, a bus tour through the Smoky Mountains with a group from church. I saw waterfalls and wildflowers, stayed in small bed and breakfasts, and laughed more in 1 week than I had in the past decade. I even met a widower named Frank, a retired teacher who made me laugh and didn't ask for anything except my company. We weren't dating, not exactly, but we had coffee every Sunday after church, and sometimes he helped me in my garden. It was nice, easy, uncomplicated. My garden itself had become something of a neighborhood attraction. I'd invested some of my recovered money into new roses, a small fountain, and a bench where I could sit and read. People walking by would stop to compliment it, and I'd found myself making friends with neighbors I'd barely spoken to in years. My bank account was healthy again. Not wealthy, but stable. I could afford my medications, my groceries, occasional small luxuries like nice coffee or a new book. The constant anxiety that had plagued me for months, will I have enough? Will I be okay? Had finally quieted. I'd even started writing, just journal entries at first, processing everything that had happened. But then I began crafting short stories about resilience, about women who found their strength in the second half of life. A local magazine published one of them. The payment was only $50, but seeing my name in print felt like validation. I was happy. Genuinely, surprisingly happy. Not despite what had happened, but perhaps because of it. I'd proven to myself that I could fight back, could survive, could rebuild. Meanwhile, Jennifer's life had unraveled completely. Michelle kept me updated, though I never asked. I think she felt guilty for not speaking up sooner, and updating me was her way of making amends. Jennifer and David's separation became official in February. David had moved back to California to live with his parents, his tech career in shambles after his fraud conviction. No company wanted to hire someone with that on their record. Jennifer had moved to Columbus, about 2 hours from me. She worked as a receptionist at a dental office, making barely above minimum wage. The student loans she'd supposedly used my money to pay off? Still active? Still accruing interest. She lived in a studio apartment with no furniture except a futon and a folding table. Her car, not the BMW, but a beat-up 2008 Corolla, had broken down twice in 3 months. She looks exhausted, Michelle told me over coffee in April. Older than her age. She asked about you. What did she say? She wanted to know if you were okay, if you were happy. I told her you were thriving. What did she say to that? She cried. I felt a small pang. Not regret, exactly, but sadness. Sadness that it had come to this, that my daughter's greed and poor choices had cost her so dearly. But I didn't regret the lawsuit. I didn't regret taking my money back. I didn't regret standing up for myself. Some people said I should forgive her, should reach out, should offer her another chance. I smiled politely and changed the subject. Forgiveness would come on my timeline, if it came at all, and it would require more than tears and regret. It would require genuine change, sustained over years, not weeks. In May, I received a Mother's Day card. No return address, but I recognized Jennifer's handwriting. Inside was a simple message. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be better. I hope one day you'll see that. Love always, Jay. I put it in the drawer with her letter. Maybe next year I'd respond. Maybe the year after that. Or maybe I wouldn't. Because I'd learned something crucial. I didn't owe anyone my forgiveness. I didn't owe anyone access to my life, my peace, my happiness. Not even my daughter. My life was mine now, and it was good. I had friends who respected me, a community that valued me, hobbies that fulfilled me, financial security that let me sleep at night. I had my dignity. I had my self-respect. And I had learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to let someone hurt you. Jennifer would have to live with the consequences of her actions, and I would live with the peace that came from knowing I'd stood up for myself. As Carol said over wine one evening, sometimes the best revenge is living well. She was right. I was living very well indeed. I learned that family isn't an excuse for abuse, that love without respect is worthless, that you can survive losing people you thought you couldn't live without. I'm 70 now. 5 years after it all happened. Jennifer and I exchange Christmas cards. Maybe one day there will be more, but I'm not waiting for it. I built a life worth living on my terms. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have fought back or let it go? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe. There are more stories where this came from. Thank you for listening.